I'm so excited to have this opportunity to speak with Robin Martin. And Robin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me on your Toddcast, if you will.
Thank you so much. My wife, when I said I was going to do a podcast, she said you have to do a podcast, and I couldn't argue with her. Argue with her. So thank you.
Yeah, it's very cute. I love
Thank
it. I
you.
think
I
it's super fun.
I appreciate that. And where are you joining us from, Robin?
Seattle, Washington.
Oh,
So West
wonderful.
Coast, Northwest Coast, USA.
Are you born and raised there?
I actually, yes.
Wow.
Well, yeah, one of the few natives, I think, of the area. I was born in Seattle. I grew up in Olympia, which is the state capital. It's about 90 minutes south of the city. Both of my parents grew up in the city, but my dad got a job for the State Department of Fisheries, and that was located at the capital area. So that's where I grew up. And then I headed right back to Seattle. I went to University of Washington, and I've stayed in the area ever since. I travel a lot. I
Yep.
travel all over the world, but Seattle is home.
Wonderful. Are you in downtown Seattle?
Actually, no, I'm on the east side. I did live in the city for a while. After college, I lived on an area called Queen Anne Hill, which is right in the city, and that's actually where my mom grew up. And then I moved to the east side, which is, for those who know the area, Bellevue, Washington is. It's on the east side of Lake Washington, and then I am on the other side. There's Lake Washington, then there's Lake Sammamish, and I'm on the other side of Lake Sammamish in Sammamish, Washington.
Nice.
About 30 minutes outside of the city.
Awesome. I've never been, but my sister used to live there and she loved it and just always raved about it. I wish I had gone and visited her while she was there.
Where was she living when she was here?
Oh, that's a great
Here.
question. I know you stumped me. I don't remember the suburb they were in, to be honest. Yeah.
It's always just, you're always
Yeah.
curious. It's
Right?
somewhere you
Of
are familiar
course.
with. Yeah.
That's cool. Do you teach yoga in a studio or are you teaching more like on retreat basis?
Oh, I teach all of it and everywhere. I teach retreats. I teach in several studios in the city, and I teach at home. I have regular Zoom classes left over from the COVID era when they all kind of started, but I have a relationship with iHeartMedia. So I teach for those guys a couple days a week. And then I have privates that actually come to my home. And
Nice.
so yeah, it's a pretty full and interesting schedule. And I really like it because it's such a variety of places, temperatures, vibes, all of that. And then, yeah, traveling. I've taught at lots of festivals and um, workshops around. I taught in Saudi Arabia in
Wow.
October of this past year. Just I was invited. It was a wonderful opportunity to teach at an event that they were hosting there. The Crown Prince was hosting. So yeah, I have a very colorful teaching history, and hopefully going forward it will continue.
Yes, that's amazing. How many years have you been teaching?
I've been teaching for about 12 years, 13 years, 12, I think. Yeah.
Cool. And how about practicing? When did you start
Um,
practicing?
May of the year 2000. So it'll be 23 years in May will be my, yeah,
Yeah.
hard to believe considering I'm only 24 years old.
Yes. A miracle. That is
I know,
incredible.
right?
That is amazing.
I
The
started
fountain of youth.
practicing
Yeah.
when my mother was pregnant with me in utero. No.
That's yes. Don't you love that one? That's like with the best yoga answer, right? I've been practicing since in utero. Have you heard that theory that while in utero, we practice every yoga pose that's ever been created?
I've never heard that. No.
I've heard someone say that. I guess there was that this idea, the 84 number, and that there's 84,000 different yoga poses, or Shiva practiced something within the realm of 84, 84,000, 84 million, and that in utero, we actually go through all of those positions before we actually come out. I don't know how true that could be. I
Right. I mean,
right.
you figure and I mean, the as a baby is forming in the uterus, it is changing and moving around, and
Right.
who knows? I don't know.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. I know it's kind of fun to think about.
I can't though. However, I don't I have to question that because
Mhm.
like the pose Padmasana, for example, lotus pose would require a lot of maneuvering to get into. It's the one where your heels are tucked up by the creases of your hips. So I can't really imagine a
I'm gonna agree
baby
with you. I'm
taking
gonna agree
their
with you. Yeah.
yeah, I don't,
I don't
I
I
think
think
this is
it's
a
a
myth.
myth. I think
Yeah.
it's a myth. It's a fun myth.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I could see just like, but what is that? I don't even know I don't, they're not going to be grabbing their foot doing a dancer pose. So I don't, yeah, I think that I have just, yeah,
Good point.
debunked that one.
Are,
Yeah,
are you a mom?
I am.
How many children do you have?
I have two.
Nice. Awesome. Do you mind me asking how old they are? Like what?
No, I don't. They're 16 and 18.
Oh, cool. I have a 16-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Is your 16-year-old driving?
Um, well, I have two daughters, and it's funny, they just didn't seem to be in any rush to get their driver's licenses. My 18-year-old finally got hers at some point, but she also had the whole issue where she did her driving school during COVID, and so she had to wait till the drivers were available to do her drives, and
Mm,
they were very backlogged.
yeah.
And my younger one is kind of in the same situation, though. She was done with her whole driving school while still 15, and she's just anxiously waiting to do her drives. She wants to get a driver's license. My older one just didn't seem to be in any hurry, and same with, I have nephews, same with them. And I was just reading an article just today, oddly, about how kids today don't have the sense of urgency or drive, if you will, to drive. The way, I mean, I couldn't get mine fast enough.
I know, me
I,
too.
I was, yeah, I was like, the day I turned 16, I think I was at the DMV getting my driver's license.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it was like,
What would you, if you had to take a stab in the dark, the reason that is that kids at age 16 aren't chomping at the bit the way we were?
well, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. One, I know that I lived a bit out in the sticks, and for me, it was freedom to be able to drive. One, my daughter, her closest friend drives her around, so maybe that's the reason why she's not in such a hurry. They can, it's easier to get around. They can Uber, they can,
Yeah.
they're just or walk to things. Like, we're much closer in here where I live than I was to anything where I grew up. um I It's beyond, I really don't, I can't really explain it, because I think it's crazy to
That would be
me.
my guess
The
as
driver's
well.
license is
Yeah.
freedom, so I don't,
I know. I hear you. I kind of pushed my son. I was like, It's fit. You're 15. We're getting your learners on the day of. You're gonna want your license when you're 16. Let's go."
and
Um,
does he have his license?
he does. Yeah, he's cruising. So far, so good.
When did he turn 16?
Knock on wood. July 11th. So he's been going now a little while. I guess it's been almost like 8 months already. Yeah.
Yeah, mine just turned 16 last month, but she, yeah, and like I said, she's just waiting to do the drives with the driving school. When I was 16, we had driver's ed in high school.
Yeah.
I think you had to pay extra for it, but it was like, it was something you could do, right? And you did all the drives, like teachers volunteered to do the drives with the students. And I mean, they don't have that, at least not
Yeah,
where
it's
my kids
different.
go to school.
It's different. You're right. You're right.
I find it
You-
disappointing for them, but
I know. It's kind of, come on, you guys.
I know.
I'm do you remember your first yoga class?
I remember the first yoga class that I took, yes.
Where and what was it like?
Oh gosh, it was May of 2000, and I remember like everything, because I had a friend I was into fitness. I went to college, and I was not in my peak fit. I was an active kid growing up. I was always involved in some sort of sport, never that good at any one thing, but did a lot of things. So I was always just really active. And then I went to college, and I was not very active. And I graduated, and I was just like, wow, I'm not in very good shape. I was surprised, because I didn't really notice it as it was slowly happening over the course of the 4 years. So I joined a gym, and I started exercising, and then I just really got into fitness. And I took a lot of group fitness classes, and one of my teachers was this guy, and he at one point was like, "Hey, you should take a yoga class with me." And I was like, that doesn't sound like something I want to do. And I just kept thinking, I had all these preconceived notions of what yoga was. I didn't really know. I pictured people sitting and maybe chanting and maybe stretching, and none of it sounded, I wanted the hard workout. I wanted, like, that's where I was in my fitness, in my fitness career at that time wasn't a career, but it was just about, going hard and feeling like I had a really good workout. And I had a really stressful job, horrible job, um, that I would take with me to the gym, and I would be thinking, processing, I'd be on the bike or in the class, and I'd just be like, and, and so this guy, Jeff, is the name of this group fitness teacher. And every time I saw him, he would tell me to join him for yoga class. And every time he told me to join him, I would say no. 2 years later, he was still at it. 2 years. I'm like, he will never stop. And so he's like, and he would say, come get sweaty with me. I'm like, I don't like being too hot. I don't, I was like, eh. So finally, it was Cinco de Mayo. And this is why I remember the date so well. I remember that was the day that I finally said, okay, I'll meet you for a class. But it was Cinco de Mayo. So I'd gone out. And the next day I didn't feel like going to do anything. So I didn't. Then then I saw him and I was like, I know I said I'd go. And he's like, and I think he said he didn't go either. I'm like, okay, I will go. I will go the following weekend. I will just do this. So I went. So whatever that date was, the weekend after Cinco de Mayo of the year 2000, I took the class. It was a 90-minute Bikram yoga class. And I rolled in there like I was going to win yoga. I was going to like kill.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm in really good shape. I work out all the time. I had this little sports bra and like little shorts on. I'm like, that class handed it to me harder than anything I've ever experienced in my life. I was fighting panic in that room. I was just like, I can't breathe. This is insane. I can't balance like this or stretch like this, or, I was not that flexible. I was probably sort of strong, but probably not that strong, like I just, it was so challenging, and it was kind of horrible on many levels. But I happen to be somebody who likes to be pushed, and I was shocked. Like it just wasn't what I expected at all. And so I think during the class itself, I really didn't like it, but I think I felt physically pretty good after. And so when it came to doing it again, I was like, I don't know. I'm like, but I'm curious. I was curious.
Mm.
So I did it again like a week later, and it was, I think it was maybe a little bit better because I had the first experience, so I knew what to expect. And I just kept going. Some classes were harder than others, depending on the temperature, the teacher, or whatever. And I just kept going. I would go once a week, then twice a week, and I was living on Queen Anne at the time in Seattle. And this was on the east side. It was in an area called Kirkland. If you're familiar with the Kirkland brand from Costco, there's your Kirkland. That's where that comes from. And so I was taking class there and at the studio, and I wouldn't even, there were other Bikram studios much closer to me, but I'm a creature of habit and familiarity. I just didn't want to go anywhere else. I'm just like, I feel comfortable-ish at this place.
Yeah.
So that's where I'll go. And then I got pregnant with my first daughter, and everybody tells you now, you shouldn't be in the hot room. But I spoke to my OB and then another doctor, and they're like, well, if your body is acclimated. I mean, people have babies in hot environments all the time, hot climates. People live in Africa and have babies and it's really hot. And they're like, as long as you're acclimated and you can sweat and you're not holding that heat and you're by a door or by a window. So I kept doing the yoga while I was pregnant. And about halfway through my pregnancy, the gym just did not appeal, but the yoga was very appealing to me. So I kept doing it. I had beautiful, healthy babies. I was yoga all the time. And then after a while, and I quit my horrible job. And at some point, probably about 6 months into my yoga practice, I realized that my job was actually much better than it was before I ever practiced yoga at all. It was much more manageable.
Yep.
I was less of a stress case. I could deal with the issues that I was handed daily much better. It got me through. I bounced back from my pregnancies so fast that I don't even like to tell my pregnancy stories, because people are just like, that's just not even right. I mean, it's not even, like, I do like to tell them, but I was pre-pregnancy weight 10 days after my first and 18 days after my second.
Wow.
Which is like super fast, not pre-pregnancy fitness level, but in all my clothes, I was wearing all my normal clothes, and it didn't, and I was right back in the studio as soon as I could be, as soon as you can be. And my deliveries were fast
Mm.
and non-complicated, and healthy. I say beautiful because they're mine, but beautiful baby girls. And um so I'm like, this yoga, there's something to it.
Yeah.
There's something to it. And my body felt good and my stamina was better, and I started gaining flexibility and gaining strength and having better balance, and my mind was in a better place for everything that I was doing, whether it was family, friends, work, whatever. And so I quit that job, and I was a stay-at-home mom. And that's really not, I wasn't really designed, I don't think, to be a stay-at-home mom. And so as soon as I could, after, like, when they were old enough, I decided to do a yoga teacher training. And because at that point I'd been practicing for about 10 years,
Yeah.
I so my first was born in 2004, my second was born in 2007. So it was like around 2010, I think, that I decided this is what I was going to do, because it also made no sense to do something like this and then teach a yoga class for $50 when I had to pay more than that for childcare to teach the yoga class. So I had to wait till they were like old enough to be in some sort of school.
Yeah.
And but I just, yeah, I knew that I wanted to do something, and it just made sense because it was flexible in terms of hours and things. I could still be a mom to my girls and teach yoga while they were in preschool. That's when I started. They were in preschool. And yeah, and then it just went from there.
I'm so curious about, did you go take Bikram yoga teacher training at that point, or did you make a jump, excuse me, into a different style?
So I made the jump into a different style before I did the teacher training, and I was taking these Bikram classes because I wasn't familiar with any other style of yoga, and every now and then a teacher would come into the studio and teach a different style, like they would be a guest and they teach something different, and I was always intrigued and blown away by the different. I didn't really pursue. I think part of the issue for me was that I had a taste of vinyasa, then I got pregnant, I think, with my second, and I couldn't, like, it wasn't a good time for me to change things up. Also, I knew chaturangas were like this low push up, and I just thought, well, my belly's going to hit the floor. I don't know if this is a great idea. There was a lot of inversions and things that we didn't do in Bikram. Bikram was a very easy practice to modify for pregnancy.
Yeah.
Vinyasa is a little more complicated. There's a lot of things that there would be a lot more modifications in vinyasa, and a lot of things that I probably would have avoided in vinyasa in pregnancy. I also did prenatal training with my teacher training, but because I had been practicing for so long at that point, and my practice was something that I took very seriously, and it was something very important to me, that if I was going to do a training and I was going to share the experience that I had practicing, I wanted it to be the best training that I could find, and something that resonated with me the most. And so I did a lot of research, and I am someone who, if I read yoga mythology or yoga history or yoga philosophy, it's easy for me to absorb. If it's interesting, if it's entertaining, it's easy. Anatomy is hard. Anatomy is difficult because I'm not necessarily naturally fascinated by the inner workings of the human body. And it's very, very complicated, and it's very, very complex. And so, like, I have a degree from the University of Washington in editorial journalism. I like to write, I like to read, I'm curious about things. I love history, but anatomy is just tricky. And I feel that because asana is a physical practice, that if I don't know the body, I'm not doing a service by teaching yoga if I don't understand how to teach it safely. So all of my training, and I have a lot of different, my original 200-hour was with Tiffany Cruikshank, who now has Yoga Medicine, is the brand. At the time, it was before Yoga Medicine. I think she came up with that like a couple years later. But I have certifications in myofascial release and like module certifications, like extra stuff on the shoulders, hips, spine. So a bunch of different areas of the body in addition to my regular training. And I feel very confident in knowing how the body works and just knowing the
Nice.
body.
That's
Yeah.
cool, Robin. With the with the myofascial release, did you go with John Barnes
No,
technique,
all
or
yoga medicine,
gotcha?
all yoga medicine.
And applying, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I get it. I get it. It's
I can
definitely,
actually turn my volume down over here so I can really clear my throat without annoying you.
well,
If you
I wouldn't even notice.
if you rub your chin, I'll pull your volume down too, and you can really let loose, and I'll put it back up.
I
I'm
love that.
curious, in relation to the myofascial release, was it primarily within a yoga technique perspective, or was it on a hands-on massage type of training?
It was so we did a lot of it was designed to be incorporated into yoga practice. However, it was we used implemented different tools for it, and a lot of there was massage technique, a lot of palpation of our we would have partners and we would practice on them, but we used myofascial release balls a lot. And then but so it's not necessarily something that you can just bring into a yoga room because you have to have like some of the gear.
Yeah.
I really like the ball, and I, in fact, my students love it too. They love when we do a myofascial release, and I do it with my online group a lot because I just tell them to have a tennis ball on
Yeah.
hand, and I
Yeah.
have my equipment, and so you know, we'll go over it on through the Zoom. There's only one studio that I teach at that actually has the proper equipment to do it. You can use a block, you can improvise with a yoga block, but it's not quite the same. And it's just really, you know, you want to really get into the fibers of the connective tissue to hydrate the tissue for better function of the muscles that
Nice.
are connected to the tissue. So, but it's yeah, I mean, I learned about it from a cellular level, and I can explain it from the myofibroblasts and the fibroblasts and what happens, and you know, and it's fascinating. And but again, for me, just the 200 hour, I was just like, you know, the anatomy part was Tiffany just focuses on anatomy. We went to a cadaver lab and I studied the muscles on dead bodies in my 200 hour, which is unheard of.
That's unheard of. Yeah.
Unheard of. Yeah, there's a 200 hour there's a 200-hour yoga teacher training on every corner of every,
Yes.
you know, of every city, of every studio. And some are better than others. You
Yep.
know, some are going to be
Correct.
better than others. And so
Correct.
I talk to a lot of people who do trainings and come out and just don't feel ready to teach.
Yes, I hear you. We're watching that like crazy all over the world, right? Like, would you say, well, since 2000, I mean, my first Bikram yoga class was in 2000 as well. And
Look at
I,
us.
I know, yes. And at that point, it was exploding. Like yoga was just coming into this place
Just
of
coming in.
like
Yep.
exploding. There really wasn't a lot of yoga fashion clothing around
Nope.
yet. It was like the internet wasn't even happening yet. So if you wanted a book on yoga, you had to go to your bookstore and hope they had maybe Iyengar's book, Light on Yoga. That'd be something I would find. David Swinson's book was out there, the practice manual. That was cool. I was so excited to find that. You could find maybe a Bhagavad Gita or something of that nature, but there
Yeah,
really wasn't a
I
lot
can
of,
go to my little library over here because we had to get certain books for the training
yeah,
and for my teacher training. And although that was 10 years later, we are talking about the year 2000. I did the training in 2010. So yeah,
yeah,
in the year 2000, I didn't even bother. Like I mean, I mentioned that I was so resistant to take a yoga class because I
yeah.
didn't, you know, like I had these ideas of what it was and I just didn't think it was going to be for me. And what's funny is all the reasons why I didn't want to go, I think are like, I completely subscribe to them now. I'm a believer, totally sold.
Wait,
But
wait, the reason, like, so, oh, gotcha. The things that you were thinking you would be repelled
the
by.
stretching and the
Yeah,
chanting and the, you know,
gotcha.
the what
Yeah,
I thought was just going to be like woo woo and weird. No,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that it's
Wow.
all good. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. My focus is still very much on the physical practice, but you know, the breath work, there's a lot of things that have a lot of, you know, a lot of function and really support the mind body connection. And I'm open to it all. Whereas I was so closed off, you know, I was just like, no, this is like weird. They're
Yeah.
weird, these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a transition process that takes time for some of us to. Yeah, the first time I heard someone chanting with a harmonium, I thought, "Oh no, this is like being back in church." Like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think so. And then I started, sobbing and loving it.
Yeah, isn't it funny? I know how we are.
Right?
We're like, I have to go, and then I'm like, actually, well,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. But no, you're right. There wasn't. Yeah, yeah. It was. it was just so different then.
Yes.
And there was, people ask me, they're like, well, why would you do Bikram? Well, there wasn't anything else. That's what the yoga offering was
That
in,
was all that was available.
that
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah.
And I had, and it's funny because, Bikram he has a terrible reputation and
Terrible.
terrible,
Terrible. Yeah.
yeah, he's like, it's horrible. Like he's a bad man on many levels, but
Yes.
I had an experience where a local Bikram teacher friend of mine, because I was in that Bikram community of, that's what I was doing for the first however many years. And but by this time I don't know if I was teaching vinyasa, but I was practicing it almost solely. I wasn't taking Bikram classes anymore. And I also hurt my knee because of Bikram yoga. I tore my meniscus because
Which pose?
What?
Which pose? Toe stand?
Well, that it would have been a combination because I did toe stand all the time, but it was the version of tree, which is a half lotus.
Yeah.
And never one time did any teacher ever say the knee is a stable joint, the hip is a mobile joint. In order to do lotus safely, or Ardha Padmasana, half lotus, you have to rotate your hip. You have to hug your heel into your hamstring and rotate your hip, and then gently tuck your heel into the inner crease of your hip. Nobody ever said anything useful. I picked up my foot and pulled it into my hip crease over and over and over. I treated my knee like it was a mobile joint, and I just was wearing down the medial meniscus every time I did it. So just over the years, finally it was just like done. Yeah. So
Can you, I want to ask you questions around joint longevity. I'm curious though, how did that evolve or eventuate? Did it end up with you needing a surgery, or was it something that you were able to back off of, give your time to yourself to heal, and it did heal?
Well, the issue with meniscus tears is they can't heal on their own because they don't get any plasma. They don't get any, it's tissue with no blood.
Yep.
It's living, but it doesn't regrow or heal or grow back together. So a tear is going to cause, like, if I took my here I am. If I took my heel to my hamstring, my knee will catch, the torn piece of tissue catches a ligament in my knee. So if it catches, I can't straighten my leg all the way. I can't put pressure on my leg. It's really pretty gross. So I had an MRI. I was considering surgery, but it was recommended to me from another yoga teacher and massage therapist friend of mine that I go see a guy who he's a because he's a chiropractor, but specializes in different things. And he had a laser. He did laser therapy on my knee, and it's definitely not 100%, but it's a million times better than it was, because
Cool.
the laser brings plasma into the area that doesn't get it normally. So it does create some healing, but it's still, the injury is still there, but I work with it. And, my issue is that downtime is almost impossible for me right now. I can't imagine it because I can't, there's a lot of things that I haven't pursued over the years just to keep my body safe and healthy, because this is my job.
Yeah.
This is my
Correct.
job. So,
Yep.
so it's, I have to, so having that surgery is a little scary. It's like, well, what if something goes wrong? A and B, what if, it just takes a long time. It's only a meniscus tear. It's a pretty minor surgery, but I'm pretty functional. I just avoid lotus.
Yes.
I just don't do that.
That's cool. From following you on Instagram, you have wonderful range of motion. I'm curious, was there a time when we were practicing, maybe in the Bikram world, where someone said, "Oh my gosh, Robin, you're so flexible. Holy cow, look what you can do." Was there like a moment where you said you didn't start off feeling really flexible? So
I wasn't.
was
Yeah.
there like an incredible growth process that happened where all of a sudden your body just started to release and open up? Or how would you relate that
I
experience?
don't think anybody's mind was blown by my amazing flexibility in the Bikram days, because it wasn't so amazing. I would say that it was just over time, if you're moving your body in certain ways over time, you're going to open it up. And I couldn't do the splits, I couldn't, there's a lot of things that just were not, I couldn't do, but I decided, so at the end of Bikram, we would do that it's funny because he had weird names for all the, they're not the actual um Sanskrit terms. He had weird, like there was some weird or whatever, like Johnny Shavasana, but it's like John Yu Shavasana or whatever.
Yes.
Just these weird names, but it was that seated stretch, right? You're in
Yep.
a seat and you're reaching out over your leg and you're
Yep.
on the second set, we were given an option to practice splits if we wanted to. And so, and then it's funny because at some point they took that away. We can't do that anymore. That's against the rules. Bikram doesn't let you do that. And we're like,
Yeah.
so
Big trouble
ridiculous.
for that. Yeah.
So weird. But so I practiced splits during that stretch. And I was doing it like every day. I was taking these classes every day. And so eventually my body just opened up.
Yeah.
And you know, like doing it repeatedly. And now I incorporate strength into everything that's flexible. And this is what I speak to this a lot on my social media. I speak to it a lot in my classes. Eventually, maybe I'll do a training specifically for, I did actually do a training for it for a little while. I partnered with a couple of guys who had a mobility business down in Las Vegas. And we got together and we created a whole yoga mobility program. And we were doing some trainings, and then COVID came. Like the timing was just really too bad. But it's, if we, so we can, you know, like flexibility is nice. Strength is great. Being really strong without flexibility is a recipe for injury. Being really flexible without strength to support the flexibility is a recipe for injury. So it's meeting in the middle. And in the earlier years of my practice, I was definitely focused on flexibility. I just want to go deeper. You know, I want to stretch more. So that pull dancer, right? You're grabbing your leg and you're pulling yourself into this stretch in your hamstring. There's even like splits on the ground. You have gravity, the weight of your body. There's straps to help you pull. There's blocks to help you get deeper. There's all these things and all these ways to deepen this stretch. But if you're not using anything at all, you have no gravity, you have no strap, you have no block, you have no ground, no wall. Can you find the same depth? And if you can't, how much different is that depth compared to what you can find with the help, with the aid, with the support? And ideally, it's not that different. So an example of that, so if I have my leg, my foot, and I pull my leg and I'm pulling my leg and I pull it up to here and I let go and it goes down to there. The difference between where I can pull it, which was up to here, and when I let go where I can hold it on my own is down here. That's, you know, that's the gap between the flexibility and the mobility, my natural range of motion with that help. If I can pull it all the way up here and let go and it stays, then I have the strength to support the flexibility.
Yes.
Because I can hold myself in that same position without the pull. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So I do a lot of that now. I mean, this is how I practice, but this is also how I teach. So when I teach a back bending class, because I think that people know me for my back bends more than anything else. I get that a lot. It's like, oh yeah, you can do those really deep back bends. They just assume it's anatomy. I'm hypermobile. I was a dancer. I was a ballerina. I was a gymnast. I was none of those things, and I'm not hypermobile. And so that's all a myth. It's not true. It's just moving in a safe way for, you know, years of learning and repetition, dedication, commitment. You know, you're not going to be really good at something or really strong at something if you don't commit to it. You will never talk to a professional athlete who hasn't devoted their, you know, like a tremendous amount of time to their art, to their fitness, to their activity or whatever it is that they're doing, their sport. So it's a lot of commitment, but in order to make it a healthy thing and not something that could potentially harm me, it's that focus of balancing strength and flexibility that keeps my joints safe. And so I was saying, like, when I teach a back bend class, I focus on active back bends the whole time. And until, you know, the very end, maybe there's a little bit of pull or a little bit of push, but even with dancer, we're just reaching back for our foot. We're just trying to get the foot somewhere near the head, or hands, I should say, or the head or whatever. And eventually, you know, maybe you close that gap between your hands and your foot, so you're not like cranking everything. And don't get me wrong, I still will grab my foot and pull myself into a dancer, but I try to focus on moving into the depth of poses without the pull, without the push, without the element of gravity or the strap or the block or whatever to assist. And those things, those tools are wonderful when applied properly and for certain poses and certain things. Like yin, give me all the blocks, give me all the bolsters, everything, and I'll just, get myself situated and breathe into some deep stretching. But when it comes to general joint longevity, you need strength to support your flexibility.
Great point, Robin. I'm curious. You have a large following on Instagram. How do you balance the pulling your body into a place knowing that I might get more interest? Like I hear from other yogis that are attempting to build their social media, like I'll try to show off to do something that's a little beyond what I probably could or should do, because if it looks more exotic, then I'll get more attention, which will equal more followers and more likes. And I'm curious how you've been able to balance maintenance of that and have pressure. Like, I don't know. I guess that's one question I have. Do you feel social media pressure having a large following?
Maybe I felt it earlier on while I was building my following. I mean, Instagram for the last few years just hasn't really, I feel like I've just been kind of stagnant. But there was definitely a period of time where I was growing very quickly. And I definitely, I actually, was talking about my meniscus. The final straw for it was when I was doing some pose for a picture, and I was doing this half lotus arm balance thing that I had seen somewhere. And the thing with the thing that's so fascinating about social media is that I saw so many things I had never seen before and I wanted to try. And I didn't really know how to pursue getting into those things. There's just a picture. And so I would try to figure it out on my own. And sometimes it wasn't the healthiest manner. This was, again, much earlier on in my practice. Now we're talking about 10 years ago. I've been on since 2013. So I definitely, yeah. So the meniscus thing, I was doing this arm balance and it was a half lotus arm balance, and I just could feel the pain in my knee. I could feel it. And I looked at and I had to record myself doing these things. I would just take a screenshot, and that's what I would post. And I looked at it and I was just like, I can do it better. I can do it better. My knee was already in so much pain. I was like, my knee's already,
Yeah.
it's already messed up. So whatever. So I remember that very specifically. There haven't been there were a few times where I hurt myself getting into things. I remember another one, I was lying on my side. I was lying on my side and I was doing this like side compassy thing. And I just wasn't really properly warmed up. And I pulled something on my side and it hurt for a long time. I seem to remember these specific incidences. Maybe there weren't too many, but I don't do that anymore at all.
Yeah.
At all. If I don't know if I pull something up, can I show it to you on my phone?
You can. And some
Try.
of you are just listening. And just so you're aware, those of you listening, this video is on YouTube. So you can see what Robin's about to show us if you want to watch the video part. However, absolutely, you can show me.
Yeah, I'm just going to see if I can find this. So we have, I work with a clothing brand, and whenever there's a new launch, a new color, a new thing that comes out, it's as part of, it's a job, it's a job. I wear the stuff and I pose in it. And I like to, for me, it's a fun creative outlet because I'll see the color and the style and I'll think, what can I do in that? Where would that look good? What kind of an environment does that work in? So if it's like a big warm coat, I'm like, I think I'll go to the mountains for that, into the snow. It's not far from where I live. Or I'll go to that looks like something that I could do in this parking garage that I pose in a lot or whatever. Or it just depends on, so an outfit that's coming out in a couple of days, it's shiny. And I'm like, okay, well, that to me has kind of an urban feel. I think I'll go to this one urban alley that I like. I work with a photographer all the time. We have fun. And I'm like, for the urban feel, I think I want to wear these heeled boots and I want to do a dancer in it. And I want to and I'm like, this is going to challenge me. This is going to be really hard because I'm like, I really want it to be like like a needle, a straight line split kind of a thing in heels, in this outfit, in this alley in Seattle. And this is my, it's what I did. I haven't posted it yet.
Oh my
I'll share it
gosh.
I'll share it in a day or
Oh,
two.
oh my gosh.
But
Yes.
the
Yes.
heels made it very difficult to balance because being up on your, I'm on the ball of my foot and it's pushing me forward. It just makes me want to fall forward and
Yeah.
step forward. But I'm like, but my thought is, I'm like, I just want to do this thing that's going to be really strikingly beautiful more than anything for the clothing, for the brand. I'm like, I want to like showcase
Yes.
how cool this is, but this is not, this isn't what I'm normally doing either. I'm not normally like standing around in some huge deep dance, certainly not in heels. Like that's not. So I realized that even in this day and age, as long as I've been on here and as long as I've been doing this, I still do some things for visual interest,
Yeah.
for sure, but not necessarily for somebody to like copy and hurt themselves. Um,
Good
you know,
point.
but
I'm curious too, because I know like in terms of speaking about joint longevity, I'll get feedback from people that'll say, well, I can't do that, or that's unsafe, or um, why would you show that, Todd? Because that's, so outside of the range of what normal or is normal range of motion. Do you ever get that sort of kickback at all when you demonstrate those types of deep expressions of asana?
it's funny. I think I don't know if I just have I'm fortunate with
Yeah,
my
people,
audience. I
people are nice to
rarely
you.
get negative
That's
anything.
amazing, Robin. That's
Yeah,
cool. That's
rarely.
may-
I did.
maybe that's an aura thing. Like maybe you're just putting out good vibes and therefore
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's
yeah.
I'm kind of a drama-free zone. Like I'm not a big fan of anything that's dramatic. But I don't. I and it's a funny thing. I had this conversation very recently with a friend of mine about how you know you get like I get a lot of really really lovely compliments and comments on my posts, even when I'm like, sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'm doing a challenge, for example. I'm hosting a challenge and whatever the pose is, the image that I took, to me it's subpar and I don't like it and I don't like what I'm like. I like nothing about it. And I'm like, people are going to be nice anyway. And I feel bad because I wouldn't even want to comment on this terrible thing. They're like, oh, wow, that's really, I did this thing where honestly, I am not at all a gratuitous sensual poser. Not my thing, not my thing. But I was,
Do you mean
there's this,
the bikini shot? Like is that what you're referencing?
I mean, I don't
Mm,
mind. I wear bikinis and stuff, but I mean, I just mean like those, like the super crotchy, wear a thong and
yeah. Yeah.
show it
Got it.
all.
Got it.
Like, and I
Got
know, like, I know a number of those out there and it's very purposeful. And I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of sexualizing yoga in general because that's not what yoga is, in my opinion. But for, people will do things for likes, whatever. And so
Yeah.
I did this the other day. I don't know. I had my daughter was with me and we were in this parking garage where I like to take photos because I like the concrete and it's generally very nice light. And I have a nice camera at this point. I've invested in some nice gear and my daughter was taking my picture and I was like, well, um, I I'm like, I'm gonna try this. The pose for the challenge was a forward fold, and I'm always trying to be creative. I'm like, I don't just want to do like a normal, can't just be a normal forward fold. So what's a creative fold? And so I did this one, and it's actually quite a crotchy shot. And I was like, I don't know if I should even post this, but I had posted the same thing I think a couple years ago, and for whatever reason in my head it wasn't like that big of a deal. And it's funny because again, all the comments were tasteful. Not one person said something crude and inappropriate. One woman said something about she was doing her best to not say anything, like she had to control herself. And I replied
Yeah.
with just like a couple emojis, like the one like the monkey,
Yeah.
like I was embarrassed. And she came back and she said, wow, that probably just made me sound like a pervert. And I said, well, I just explained that I wasn't gratuitous typically in that, like, I mean, I don't, like, but it's funny because friends of mine it was sweet. Like I could tell that they were struggling with what to say about that pose. They're like, "Oh, I love a good forward fold." It was just funny. But I generally, but yeah, I would say that I really don't get a lot of feedback or criticism. I have though when I have posted, um sometimes like, when I go through phases, sometimes I'll do things that are more educational and instructive or whatever. I mean, that's a little risky though, because if you're instructing something and it's something that it's just I feel like it's a little risky because if somebody tries it, does it, and it doesn't work out,
Mm,
is there a liability? Like, I don't know. Um, but showing the difference between the passive flexibility and the active mobility, I do that. I'm probably gonna actually do that again here pretty soon. It's been a while, but I used to do it a lot when I was really, like trying to get the point across of the importance of balancing strength and flexibility. And there's usually somebody who's just like, the first one is active, and that's that you can't, no, 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 you're not saying it right, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I said for the purpose of the illustration here, I'm like, there isn't going to be anything that is completely passive unless you're just laying there in shavasana or whatever. So there's always going to be some level of something's going to be active.
yeah.
And I'm like, I'm specifically referring to the front of the hip in this, whatever. And usually even those people who are rude will come back and say, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I see what you mean," and
Mm,
back off.
that's cool. Yeah. Bless you. I know it's I think genuine I have a sense that the majority of the world is positive and good, and there's just a minority that will tend to take those sort of shots. So it's nice to hear that you don't contend with that much. That's
I
reassuring.
I don't. But it's a funny thing, and maybe it's kind of a sad thing, is that despite all of the lovely things, if there is one negative thing, you hold on to it. You're
It's
just
hard.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know if people just figure, because I get it. Like I put myself out there. I'm a public figure. I understand that, but that doesn't mean that I'm not a sensitive human, like it's not, and I don't, and again, for me, it's not bad, but I have friends that tell me stories of some of the stuff that they have been told or heard. Maybe they're, like a little bit more curvy or whatever. And I can't, I didn't know people could be so cruel. I've not experienced that. I have not experienced that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as like, nobody has, I'm trying to think if anybody has ever said that I've done something unsafe. Because I'm not really like somebody, I've done some things on ledges and things that are questionable that people could question, but even then,
Yeah.
nobody really says anything. I mean, I wouldn't recommend getting on a ledge to somebody else,
Right.
but there's a ledge in Seattle that happens to have a gorgeous view of the city. And when I get up there and this is just a fun, this is just when I get up there and do things on that ledge, because it's a tourist destination, and it's photographers and tourists come and they pack that place. People will clear away. They'll give me the space to pose up there. And I feel a little bit too, like, I'm like, it's my city. It's my city.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Like, and people will take, the photographers will gather around and take pictures of me up there, but they're very respectful. And, they're like, I think that they think I'm a little bit of a daredevil.
Uh-huh.
But it's not, but I'm not risking any. I'm not a high risk person. I
Yeah.
don't do
Yeah.
things that are gonna, like I'm not risking my life by being up there and doing
That's
whatever.
that's cool, Robin. You have a retreat coming up in Greece, is that correct?
That is correct.
Where are you going to be holding the retreat?
We're gonna be in Santorini and Crete, splitting the time between the two islands.
Have you been to both places already before?
I've been to neither of those
Nice.
places. I've been to Greece, I've been to other islands,
Greece,
but I have
yeah.
not been to Santorini or Crete. And I have heard the most wonderful things about both of those islands. So I'm very excited.
How do you structure your retreats? Do you focus on like them as a training, or is it that you'll just have a practice in the morning and then let people do whatever they want during the rest of the day? Is it an all day yoga engagement? How do you focus or structure your retreats?
Well, I've been leading retreats for many years. I think my first one was like in 2015, and they have evolved over the years. And what I have found that it creates the most enjoyable retreat is when you can give somebody, especially if it's far away somewhere interesting, which is where I like to go, is far away and interesting. If you can give them an experience that involves yoga and culture. And so the yoga aspect, it takes care of the jet lag. You feel really good once you start to move your body. It allows you to like deal with the the time difference and everything and function better. We usually have a yoga class in the morning and in the evening. So a vinyasa or something that we're moving a lot in the morning and then more restorative in the evening. But it depends if there's a day where there's an activity scheduled it interferes with either morning or afternoon, then we'll just, adjust things accordingly. But we are all about experiencing, because culture involves food,
Mm.
it involves history, it involves landmarks or things that they do in that area, whether it's a custom, a skill, a religious type of thing. It depends. When we were in Bali, we visited a temple. We had the most, and we visited a beautiful beach, like a beach club place. And we went to some wonderful restaurants. We had some tasting menus because the food there, it was really fun and it was really good. And we do in Bali, let's see, I'm trying to remember. I don't think we did it in Bali. We're going to do this in both Greece and in Portugal. We have Portugal coming up in September. We'll do one day where we go on a hike. On both of these experiences, we have a boat excursion. We have a cooking class in Greece. We have a fairly packed itinerary, but everything is optional. So
Nice.
for the person that comes and wants to just hit it, kick it by the pool, they can
Yeah.
do that.
Yep.
It's up to them. It's whatever you want it to be, but we like to give somebody a full experience. If they're going to come and travel all the way with us, they're going to feel good physically and they're going to learn a lot about where they are and they're going to enjoy the food.
Nice. When you say we, are you teaming up with a fellow yoga practitioner teacher or with a tour organizer?
Well, both actually, both. I've led retreats by myself and I've put them together by myself. And again, learning experience, I have found that the best case scenario is when you have your closest friend who's also a fantastic yoga teacher with you, because then we can take each other's classes. So we get to move too. So we get to feel better about the jet lag and everything. But also it gives the retreaters a better experience. We're able to be more hands-on and to do more for them. And I never really thought to use a retreat organization, a company, until COVID. And it was interesting to me because they had to deal with all of the logistics, all of the crazy stuff that, like vaccination requirements and testing requirements, because it was complicated.
Yeah.
And so, and then we realized these companies, not only do they deal with those logistics, they have really cool itineraries and they plan really fun things, and they're able to coordinate and do things that we can't do because we just wouldn't know who to contact,
Yeah.
how to make those things happen. And so it makes, for us, we show up, they create the plan,
Nice.
they've got the itinerary, we arrive, we make sure that our people are taken care of. But it's great. Like, I love these. I've worked with multiple companies at this point. So
That's cool to hear. I've never worked with a company, but it does seem like they would take a lot of the work off of the plate on your hands, let you actually have fun with the retreat guests. And
I haven't really noticed a loss in income, and it's less work. So
yeah, it sounds like a no-brainer. Yeah.
right, because these retreat companies have arrangements with the different the resorts and hotels and places. We're staying at some beautiful, luxurious properties because they have the relationship. They're able to get a much better deal. So there's not like a huge upcharge. All of our retreats are within the same price range. They're not inexpensive, but for what you're getting. So the retreat, this Greece retreat, it's 7 nights. It's an 8-day experience. Obviously the travel days are travel days, but the Santorini location, the resort, it's so beautiful. Everybody's staying in a suite and they have their own plunge pool. The place in Crete is gorgeous. It's not quite like that, but it's also like a suite setup. And it isn't, it's no, I mean, we did a 3-night retreat in Utah. I mean, Yeah, it was Utah, Zion, in Zion, 3 nights, and it was about the same price as the
Wow.
7-day Greece retreat. And it's almost all inclusive, not quite, but most of the meals are included and all of these excursions are included, and it's 2,900 per person sharing a room. It's a little bit more if you're in your own room,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
2,900
Yeah.
for 2 very high-end luxury places for 7 nights.
Yeah. That sounds amazing.
Food, your the yoga, all the excursions and everything.
That's
I
cool,
think that sounds
Robin.
like a pretty good deal
It
to
sounds
me.
good. It sounds amazing. I can imagine nice blue sky, white Greek architecture on a hillside,
Yeah,
amazing food, swimming
I'm
in the
ready for it.
Mediterranean.
Yes, all of it, all of it. I can't wait. I have done those things. I have been to Greece. It is pure magic. It is pure magic.
Awesome. Robin, what advice would you give a budding yoga practitioner that wants to pursue a career as a yoga teacher? Maybe if you were even thinking of your own daughters, like if they were to say they came to you, Mom, I want to do what you did. What sort of advice would you give that new, young, budding yoga practitioner teacher to get started? Like, what would you now, having the years that you have under your belt, you've had enjoyed the success of leading retreats and holding trainings and classes and working in different venues in class in studio settings on the Zoom setting, one-on-one privately. What sort of advice would you give somebody?
I mean, I guess probably the first thing I would tell anybody, because I've been asked this before, is that I think that there, it's to expect to have the same result that I had isn't a reasonable expectation. It's time, it's place, it's people, there are so many elements that come into play because the yoga teaching world, there are many, many, many of us, right? There's a yoga teacher. Since there's a training on every corner, there's a teacher on every 2 feet. There's a lot of teachers to have to really make a financially successful career. If you don't own a studio and you don't, you're just you're like somebody like me who teaches and travels to teach. um I think that keep your expectations in check. Don't become a teacher right away. Give yourself plenty of time to explore the practice first. Understand what it is that you like about the practice and what it is that maybe doesn't resonate with you about the practice. Maybe you dive deeper into things that don't resonate with you so that you have a more complete picture of what it involves. I feel like there are way too many people who decide they want to be a teacher without having experienced the practice. And so they come in and they're teaching and I can tell when I'm taking a class. I'm like, this person doesn't know how to keep my body safe. They don't know how to keep their own body safe. It's and like I said before, way earlier on this podcast, it's a liability. You need to be able to bring something that's safe to your students and interesting and creative and all those things. So again, just learn it, breathe it, live it, understand it, then do a training at that point. If you're still, if you still think that this is something that you want to do, and take the crappy class time, teach right away, get the 6 a.m. class. That's what I did. That's you dive into you just have to, you can't, beggars can't be choosers. You get what you get as a parent and you don't get upset. But you know that line probably, but um, you pay your dues. You teach the classes that aren't optimal. Maybe you teach a style that you're not necessarily like, it's not your favorite, but it makes you better because you're more well-rounded that way. And then if you want to share your stuff on social media, it may or may not be received. It's these days it's tough to grow. It's very, very different than it was when I started. And it's just, if it's something you love and you're passionate about it, by all means
Yeah.
pursue and go. I'm very, very passionate about it. I love it. Like I'm to be able to do something that I love and that I truly, truly believe has such a tremendous impact on the mind and body of a human being is amazing. I
Agreed.
feel so fortunate. The term blessed is a little bit overused in the whole yoga spectrum, but I feel very, very, very fortunate that I am in a position to be able to share something that makes people feel better.
That's amazing, Robin. I can feel your passion.
I'm like, I get on my
It's
soapbox
it's
and I'm just like,
infectious.
"Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it."
I
But I
agree
really
with
do.
you.
I
I agree
really
with you
do.
100%. I want to be respectful of your time, and we're coming in and around about the 1 hour mark. So
Yeah.
I wanted to touch upon joint longevity, which we did get a chance to do. I wanted to hear about your retreat. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
We did get to talk about aloe and your relationship with aloe and how
No,
not a
yeah, I
whole
think
lot
what I
is
was just
you.
talking about, yeah, that I'm not sure
Yeah.
I mentioned that it was aloe, but I think that that's kind of it's probably a known fact. Yeah, that I work with the company, I work with the brand, and I have for many years now since 2017, and it's a different side. It's like that's a different side of my. Yeah, I do teach. I have a few classes on the Aloe Moves app, but but I am for me, that side of my world, sort of more like the modeling of the clothing or whatever, that's just a creative outlet and that's just fun. That's just a really
Cool.
fun thing for me to do.
Do they treat you well?
They are wonderful. Yeah, they're wonderful. We referred to it as a family for years and years, part of the family. And yeah, they've always, excuse me,
It's okay.
they've always been, as I have to clear my throat, they've always been wonderful to me. And yeah, I mean, I cannot, there isn't a single thing, a single complaint that I know. And the clothes themselves are quality, style, and I mean, I love them. They've been outfitting me since 2017. They have saved me so much money on my yoga wardrobe. I can't even begin. You know, they've kept me stylish, and yeah, and it's a great. It's been a it's been a really wonderful opportunity, and I hope it lasts.
Nice.
I really do.
That's cool, Robin. I am so thankful for you to take time out of your day to speak with me. Is there any other words of wisdom and or advice you would like to share before we wrap up our session together?
Boy, I don't know.
I mean,
I feel like
you
I've
offered a
thrown out
lot
a lot.
already. Yeah, you
Yeah, I've
offered a lot
thrown out a
already.
lot of like nuggets along the way. I would just say, yeah, if you're starting a practice, start slow. Find somebody in person if you can. You know, self-taught isn't the way to go because that's I don't even know what that means. I read that a lot. I'm a self-taught yogi. Nobody's self-taught. Somebody's teaching you something. So make sure that whoever's teaching you something knows what they're doing when they're teaching it to you so that you form healthy habits and safe habits. And if you decide from that point on that you want to share the practice, you want to teach, again, just do your homework and make sure that what you're doing, what you're putting out there, what you're sharing is something that's keeping people mentally and physically safe.
Yay. Thank you, Robin.
Those are my nuggets. Those are my words of
That
wisdom.
was great. I really appreciate it, Robin. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I
You
really
know it.
appreciate it as well.
It's fun following you. I recommend everyone listening, please give Robin a follow. You'll see the links in the description below. Check her out on our website. Join Robin in Greece.
Yeah, join me in Greece the May 13th through the 20th. And if you do join me on my, if you follow me on social media, I always respond to comments and questions. Always, always, always. So if you were to comment on a post, just make sure it's nice. It's not mean. Because
You
if it
are
isn't,
you are a sensitive human being.
because I'm
You
a,
do have
even
feelings.
though I put myself out there, I still have I have feelings too. Um, but but yeah, I do interact and I really appreciate the support. I
Awesome,
really do.
Robin. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'll keep in
Thanks,
touch.
Todd.
All right.
Sounds good. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.